flood warning. The river is expected to cause flooding, and important information on weather changes coming for your morning commute. Also, snow mess, streets unplowed, school buses stuck. Tonight, Akron residents take matters into their own hands. And teenage depression. A study now links it to time spent on social media. Plus, we'll tell you who's most at risk. Right now, we have flood warnings for 5 Northeast Ohio waterways: the Black River, the Huron River, the Cuyahoga, the Grand River, and Kilbuck Creek. You're looking at a live picture of some flooding along the Chagrin River, which is under a flood watch, and that has prompted voluntary evacuations tonight. And good evening, I'm Russ Mitchell. Sarah is on assignment. A live report from Eastlake on the Chagrin River in just a minute. But first, Matt Wentz in for Betsy. And Matt, you and I were talking earlier. This is not surprising.
Yeah,
right?
not surprising, Russ. You get an inch of rainfall on top of the snowmelt that we had from the recent snowstorm. And we've got a lot of water out there. And, you know, Betsy was mentioning last night, a lot of these drainage areas are jammed and just nowhere for it to go, at least in that hurry. So we've still got rain falling outside. I want to get to the flood watches and warnings first. There's an aerial flood watch. This goes through the early morning hours for the entire viewing area. That's just basically saying a lot of these drainage areas are clogged. You're going to encounter water on area roadways, but we have these individual river flood warnings, and that's where we have the flood that is imminent right now. So we'll start off to the west, the Huron River. This is at Milan right now. You can see this fancy little chart. Doesn't tell you much, right? But it does. This is actually the last 24 hours where the water has gone. Once it reaches the orange area, that is flood stage, and it is expected to crest here over the next really 24 hours or so before it starts to subside. Now, off to the east, you have the Black River, and again, that is expected to reach flood stage, almost the moderate flood stage, and that's near Elyria. Even further off to the east, here's the Cuyahoga River. That's near Independence where that flooding takes place, and that will come really darn close to flood stage here over the next 24 hours. And then we've got the typical ice jam that we often have near Eastlake. This is the Chagrin River where it empties out into Lake Erie. Lots of problems there in terms of flooding. Those folks know the drill over in that neck of the woods. And Grand River over towards the Paynesville community, expected to reach flood stage as well. And then finally down south, areas of Wayne County and Holmes County. We've got the Kilbuck Creek, which is expected to reach flood stage tomorrow. The problem is we still have rain falling, and that rain is changing over to snow in the western half of the area as colder air works into this system, and that's going to cause all sorts of problems tomorrow morning. We've got all this water in place. We've got the colder air working in, and that water is going to freeze. So we are expecting some icy travel tomorrow morning. I'll break down your forecast hour by hour coming up. Russ?
All right, Matt, we'll see you in just a bit. Lena Lai joined us now from Eastlake along the Chagrin River. Lena, what can you tell us tonight?
Hi, Russ. We'll take a look at these huge chunks of ice. This is what was jamming up the Chagrin River in 3 different parts in the Eastlake area. But now take a look at the river, and it's free-flowing water. This is a good sign. But this didn't happen without a few scary moments tonight.
Nerve-wracking.
As the water rose, so did the concern.
From the time that I got home at around 6 o'clock, it was not this bad. And then, I want to say 30 minutes later, I looked outside and it was like this.
Her car was literally floating over here.
And that's when Jennifer Hunter's family declared it was time to go. She and 8 family members, including 6 children, among the 14 people evacuated from 2 homes in Eastlake, as floodwaters from the Chagrin River had firefighters scrambling to make sure everyone was safe.
We've actually went door to door, knocking on doors in all the areas.
Meanwhile, on Island Drive, houses sat like islands, where longtime residents say they rarely see this kind of flooding here.
Wouldn't trade it in, no. It's worth it living down here.
But this time, luck would be on their side. And with worries also receding, these kids actually say they had fun. Now with a real fish story to share at school.
It was fun.
And so the water keeps flowing. Fingers crossed that it continues that way, and hopefully these big chunks of ice just stay to the side of the river. Right now, as you can tell, the rain is falling, and that still is somewhat of a concern, but Eastlake authorities feel like they are out of the danger tonight. It's just a watch and see for now. Reporting live from Eastlake, Lena Lai, Channel 3 News.
All right, Lena, safe travels back for you. Let's take a live look now at the Black River in Elyria. It's also under a flood warning. It's expected to crest tonight and start to recede by tomorrow morning. Low-lying areas around the river could see minor flooding We'll have more on the rising waters later in the broadcast. Tonight, the city of Akron is apologizing after its roads went unplowed for days. More than a dozen school buses got stuck on the streets today that were never cleared. Andrew Horansky now joins us after speaking to residents who are worried it could happen again. Andrew, good evening to you.
Good evening to you, Russ. They are worried because they know, of course, those freezing temperatures are coming, just as they know that this is a common scene on many streets here. Big piles of snow that tonight are melting with the rain, and you can see how they are pooling here where my feet are. Now, the concern, of course, is that this can freeze, and if the response continues to be as slow as it's been over the past few days here, we could have real problems. Akron's deputy service director told the Beacon Journal last week that plow operators could have a tough time keeping up with the weekend storm. But he may not have realized just how tough, because even though that storm left days ago, some streets still weren't plowed this morning as students returned to school. 14 buses got stuck, as furious parents flooded the district with concerns.
We had one that did end up sliding into a tree, and part of the tree broke off and landed on the top of the school bus. Kids are okay. So those kids were late. We probably had a few hundred kids that were late today, and that's okay.
This officer even drove students in his cruiser. Unable to ignore the criticism, city officials eventually threw up their hands, admitting they dropped the ball. We have failed to provide a timely level of service to all city streets in response to the storm, and we are sorry, they said. And though they claimed more than 100 snow-clearing vehicles were deployed today, we still found streets even tonight, this one near a school that hadn't been cleared. Those that were saw chunks of ice over drains and at the base of their driveways. So when we learned Stacy Reggae injured her neck, we chipped in too, clearing the ice in front of her home. And fortunately, we weren't the only ones.
So we have had some people in the neighborhood, some guys in the neighborhood that have trucks with plows on them, and they've been helping everybody that's been stuck.
Doing a job that taxes should be covering. There is still no word tonight whether Akron schools will close tomorrow. At this point, we are presuming that they will remain open. Meantime, there were some concerns today. We tried day and night to reach out to Akron officials to talk about what their plans are ahead of this next cold front moving in. They refused to answer our questions, made no one available to speak with us tonight. Reporting live in Akron, I'm Andrew Horansky, Channel 3 News.
And Andrew, to you and your crew as well. Be safe getting home. We are now learning new information about the bank shooting in Florida that left at least 5 dead today. Police have identified